crowd fell silent the moment the auctioneer raised his hand. Lydia Owens stood against the rough wooden post in the dusty town square of Sheridan, Wyoming, her fingers gripping the splintered wood so tightly they turned white. The April wind whipped her honey-blonde hair across her tear-streaked face, but she did not brush it away. She refused to give the men gathered before her the satisfaction of seeing her tremble. "Next up, gentlemen," Frank Chambers called out, his voice carrying over the restless crowd. "Mrs. Lydia Owens, sold to settle her husband's gambling debts. Bidding starts at $50. A few men chuckled. Others shifted their boots in the dirt like they were inspecting livestock. 3 days ago, Lydia had been a married woman, living in a small house on the edge of town. Not happy, not cherished, but married. But now she stood like property, like something to be traded. Her husband, Thomas Owens, had vanished the night he lost heavily at cards to Jeremiah Quinn, the owner of the Golden Nugget Saloon. Instead of facing his debt, Thomas had signed over everything: the house, the land, and her. "50!" a rough voice shouted from the back. Lydia's stomach turned. She knew that voice. Wilbur Simmons, who ran the brothel outside town. 60. 75. Simmons barked again. Lydia closed her eyes. This could not be real. This was America in 1878, not some distant land where women were bought and sold. Yet here she saw she stood, alone, with no family and no money, waiting for a stranger to decide her fate. 100. The new voice was calm, steady. Her eyes flew open. But near the back of the crowd stood a tall man leaning against a hitching post. He wore a worn leather vest over a faded blue shirt. His wide-brimmed hat cast a shadow over his face, but she could see strong shoulders and the quiet stillness of someone who did not belong to this noise. 125, Simmons snapped. The stranger straightened. 300. Gasps spread through the square. $300 was more than most men in Sheridan saw in months. 300 going once, Frank called, eyes wide. 350, Simmons growled. 500, the stranger replied without hesitation. The square went dead quiet. $500. Even Simmons fell silent. "Sold!" Frank shouted, slamming the gavel down. Just like that, it was over. The crowd broke apart, whispering. Some laughed in disbelief. Others stared at the tall cowboy who had just paid a small fortune for a woman he did not know. Lydia could not move. The stranger walked toward her, spurs jingling softly with each step. Up close, she saw he was younger than she first thought. Early 30s, blue eyes sharp and clear, a strong jaw covered with a few days of beard. He stopped a respectful distance away. "My name is Heath Vance," he said quietly. "I'd like to speak with you somewhere private. Would you allow me to escort you to the hotel dining room?" She swallowed. He had just bought her. What choice did she have? "I have nowhere else to go," she whispered. He nodded once and took the bill of sale from the auctioneer. His signature was firm and angry across the paper. Inside the Sheridan Hotel dining room, away from staring eyes, Heath removed his hat and sat across from her. "I don't understand," Lydia said finally. "You paid $500 for me. What do you expect in return?" He looked at her for a long moment. "I expect nothing," he said. "What happened in that square was wrong. No human being should be bought or sold. I purchased that contract to give you your freedom." She stared at him, certain she had misheard. "My freedom." He pulled the folded paper from his vest. Slowly, deliberately, he tore it in half. Then again, and again, until nothing remained but scraps on the table. "You're free, Mrs. Owens," he said. "Free to go wherever you wish. I'll give you enough money to start over somewhere safe." Tears filled her eyes, but these were different from the ones she shed in the square. "So why would you do that for a stranger?" He leaned back slightly. "Because I've seen too much injustice in this world, and I won't stand by when I can stop it." For the first time in days, Lydia felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Heath studied her gently. "Do you have family?" She shook her head. "No, I came west with Thomas. My parents are gone." Silence settled between them. Then Heath leaned forward. "I have a ranch near the Montana border. I need a housekeeper. Honest work. Fair pay. You'd have your own cabin. You'd be safe." She searched his face for any sign of cruelty. There was none. "You would truly expect nothing more?" she asked carefully. "You have my word," he said firmly. "Nothing more will ever be asked." Lydia looked down at her hands. This morning she had been someone's property, and now she was being offered dignity. "I accept," she said softly. The next morning, as the sun rose over Sheridan, Lydia mounted a gentle chestnut mare beside Heath Vance. She did not lower her head when townsfolk stared. She had been sold, but she had not been broken. As they rode north toward the unknown, Lydia realized something powerful. The shame was never hers, and somewhere deep in her heart, she wondered if the man riding beside her had just done more than buy her freedom. She wondered if he had changed her fate forever. The North Star Ranch rose from the valley like something out of a dream. After 3 long days on the trail, Lydia followed Heath over the final hill and caught her breath. Below them stretched rolling green grass, a wide stream cutting through the land, and a strong log house standing proud beneath the shadow of the Bighorn Mountains. Smoke curled gently from the chimney. Horses grazed in a fenced corral. Everything about the place felt steady, safe. "Welcome to the North Star," Heath said quietly. Lydia could hear the pride in his voice. For the first time in a long while, she felt something loosen in her chest. This could be a new beginning. They were greeted by Heath's foreman, Charlie Wilson, and his wife, Martha. Martha stepped forward with flour still dusted on her apron, and eyes warm with kindness. "Well now," she said, smiling at Lydia, "you must be the new housekeeper. We've been praying Heath would find someone sensible." There was no judgment in her voice, no whispers, no shame. That alone almost made Lydia cry. Her cabin sat just a short walk from the main house, and it was simple but clean. A small porch, a rocking chair, fresh flowers already placed on the table inside. "It's not fancy," Heath said, standing in the doorway as he lit the oil lamp. "But I hope you'll be comfortable. It's more than I expected," Lydia answered honestly. That night, after washing away 3 days of dust in warm bath water the ranch hands carried for her, Lydia sat by the small fireplace in her cabin and let the quiet settle around her. No shouting, no gambling debts, no fear. Only the crackle of fire and the distant sound of cattle lowing under the stars. She slept deeper than she had in years. The days at the North Star quickly found a rhythm. Lydia rose early to prepare breakfast. She cleaned, baked bread, kept accounts, and slowly began bringing warmth into the large bachelor house Heath had built, but never truly filled. In the evenings, Heath always returned for supper. Those quiet dinners became her favorite part of the day. They talked about books, about the East, about the territories. Heath was not the rough man his weathered clothes suggested. He was educated, thoughtful, gentle in ways that surprised her. And he listened. One evening, 3 weeks after her arrival, as they lingered over coffee, Heath studied her carefully. "You're different than when you first arrived," he said. "How so?" "You stand taller now." She looked down at her hands. "I had forgotten who I was," she admitted softly. "Thomas made sure of that." Heath's jaw tightened. "Did he hurt you?" "Sometimes," she said. "But the worst was how small he made me feel, like I was foolish, like I was lucky he kept me." Heath leaned forward, blue eyes steady. "That woman is still there, Lydia. I see her every day." His words struck something deep inside her. No one had ever said that before. That night, walking back to her cabin under a sky filled with stars, Lydia realized something else. She was beginning to look forward to Heath's footsteps outside her door. Spring gave way to early summer, and the ranch grew busy with new calves and long days in the sun. One afternoon, a storm rolled in fast and violent. Lightning split the sky. Thunder shook the valley. Heath rode out to check on the cattle. An hour passed, then 2. Lydia's worry grew heavier with every strike of thunder. When the front door burst open, Heath stumbled in, soaked and breathless, carrying a bleeding man in his arms. "It's Jeb Miller," Heath said urgently. "His wagon overturned in the storm." Without thinking, Lydia rushed to help. She tore cloth for bandages, boiled water, held Jeb steady as Martha set his broken leg. She did not tremble. She did not panic. Later that night, as Jeb slept and the storm faded, Heath watched her from across the room. "You were remarkable," he said quietly. "I only did what needed doing." "That's rare," he replied. Something in his gaze lingered longer than usual, and for the first time, Lydia felt heat rise in her cheeks that had nothing to do with the fireplace. Weeks passed. Their conversations grew deeper. Their glances lasted longer. On Sundays, they rode together to a quiet lake hidden between tall aspens. It became their place. One afternoon, as they sat beside the water, Heath spoke of his mother, and of loss, of building the ranch with dreams of a family he never thought he would have. "You ever regret coming west?" he asked her. "No," Lydia answered honestly. "Not anymore." The words surprised even her. She realized then that Sheridan already felt like a distant memory. That night, as they rode home beneath a rising moon, Heath suddenly reined in the horses on a hill overlooking the ranch. The valley glowed silver below them. "Lydia," he said, voice low, "I've been fighting this feeling since the day I saw you in Sheridan." Her heart began to pound. "I care for you," he continued, "more than I should as your employer, more than I thought I could after everything." She could see vulnerability in him now. "Do you feel the same?" he asked. Her answer came without hesitation. "Yes." Heath moved slowly, yet giving her time to pull away. "May I kiss you?" he whispered. She leaned forward instead. Their kiss was soft at first, careful. Then it deepened, carrying weeks of unspoken longing. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. "I want to court you properly," Heath said. "Not as your rescuer, not as your employer, but as the woman I'm falling in love with." The word love hung between them. "Yes," she whispered. Back at the ranch, nothing was hidden. Wildflowers appeared on her breakfast tray. Books were left at her door. Hands brushed beneath the dinner table. The ranch hands noticed. Jeb, now healing on crutches, chuckled one afternoon. "Never thought I'd see Heath Vance look at a woman like that," he teased. Lydia tried to ignore the way her heart fluttered at that truth. But beneath the happiness, a shadow lingered. No, she was still legally married. Thomas was still somewhere in the world. And one afternoon, that shadow arrived. A polished carriage rolled into the yard. A beautiful woman stepped down, dressed in expensive silk. "I'm Julia Harrington," she said coolly. "I've come to see Heath Vance." Lydia's stomach tightened. Julia, the woman who had once broken Heath's heart, and she had not come for a friendly visit. She had come to take him back. "Wait, before we move on, what do you think about the story so far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to know." Heath did not hesitate. When Julia Harrington stood in his parlor and offered herself back to him, he did not look at her the way Lydia feared he might. He did not soften. He did not waver. "My heart is engaged elsewhere," he said firmly. And when Julia's cool green eyes shifted toward Lydia, Heath reached for Lydia's hand in full view of her. "With a woman of strength and kindness," he added. In that moment, something inside Lydia settled. Not doubt, not fear. Certainty. Julia left before sunset, pride still in her posture, but defeat in her silence. When the carriage disappeared down the trail, Lydia stood beside Heath on the porch, the wind tugging gently at her skirt. "Are you sure?" she asked quietly. "About me?" He turned toward her, eyes steady and full. "I have never been more sure of anything." That night beneath the stars, Heath kissed her with a tenderness that erased the last of her fears. And for the first time since Sheridan, Lydia felt fully chosen. Summer deepened. The ranch thrived. Then one afternoon, as laughter echoed near the lake where half the ranch hands were cooling off, a rider approached fast and urgent. "Heath!" Dawson shouted. "Telegram from Cheyenne. It's marked urgent." Heath stepped out of the water and tore open the yellow paper. His expression changed as he read. "It's from James," he said quietly. "Thomas Owens has been found." The world seemed to tilt. "Where?" Lydia whispered. "Denver. He's in jail. Fraud. Theft. Awaiting trial." 1,000 emotions rushed through her at once. Fear, anger, pity, and something else. Opportunity. Heath met her eyes. "This could end everything legally," he said, "if he agrees to a divorce." "I'm going with you," Lydia said immediately. He hesitated only a moment, then nodded. 3 days later, they stood inside the Denver jail. The air smelled of iron and regret. Yet when Thomas Owens was brought into the visitor's room, Lydia barely recognized the man she once married. His handsome face was thinner now, his suit replaced with prison cloth, his confidence cracked by circumstance. "Well," he sneered, "my wife, and her cowboy." Lydia did not flinch. "You sold me," she said evenly. "You forfeited the right to call yourself my husband." Heath remained silent beside her, strong and steady. James Hamilton, Heath's lawyer, placed the divorce papers on the table. $500, James said, "in exchange for your signature." Thomas laughed bitterly. "500? That what I'm worth now?" "It's what you valued me at," Lydia replied calmly. The room fell quiet. Thomas looked at Heath. "You love her?" he asked mockingly. "Yes," Heath said without hesitation. The simplicity of the answer seemed to shake Thomas more than anger ever could. After a long silence, he reached for the pen. "500 it is," he muttered. "Consider it my wedding gift." When the ink dried on the paper, Lydia felt something lift from her chest that she had carried for years. Outside the jail, in the bright Denver sunlight, Heath turned to her. "It's over," he said softly. "No," she corrected gently. It's beginning." Before she could ask what he meant, Heath stepped back. Then, right there on the busy street, he dropped to one knee. Passers-by slowed. Some gasped. "Lydia Owens," he said, voice steady despite the crowd. "From the moment I saw you in that town square, I knew you were extraordinary. You deserve love. You deserve respect. And I want to spend my life giving you both. Will you marry me?" Tears blurred her vision. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, Heath." He rose and pulled her into his arms, kissing her without shame, without fear. Applause broke out around them from strangers who did not know the full story, but recognized something beautiful when they saw it. They were married that autumn beneath golden aspens at the North Star. The entire valley came to witness it. Lydia walked toward Heath in a simple ivory gown, sunlight catching in her hair, heart steady and full. This time she was not being claimed. She was choosing. Years passed, and the North Star flourished under their care. Lydia became more than a rancher's wife. She handled accounts, organized trade, and helped establish a proper schoolhouse in town. Her voice was respected, her mind valued. But Heath never once forgot the day he found her in Sheridan. Every year on that anniversary, they rode together to the lake and remembered. Not the humiliation, not the pain, but the moment freedom began. They had 2 children, a son with Heath's blue eyes, a daughter with Lydia's fierce intelligence, their home filled with laughter. One evening, 5 years into their marriage, Heath handed Lydia a leather-bound journal. "For our story," he said. She opened it to find his handwriting on the first page. "In the spring of 1878, in a dusty town square, I found the woman who would become my heart." Lydia smiled through tears. She had once been sold, but she had never been owned. And now, as she rode beside her husband across the valley at sunset, children waiting on the porch and the North Star glowing ahead, she understood something powerful. Heath had bought her freedom, but together they had built something far greater. A love no man could ever sell, a future no one could ever take away. And their story had only just begun.